Oh, sorry. It's working now, right? Okay, shall we start, Ruqayya? Okay. Okay. So, welcome to my mini workshop. I'm presenting today about a new research method in social science. I mean, to be honest with you, when I submitted the proposal, I was thinking about I would be able to talk about research methods and then each tools and each method. And then I found myself maybe I'm a little bit ambitious about doing this. So because this is not really very practical. It's a very huge field, and it seems like we're missing a lot. So what I'm trying to do today, actually, by doing this kind of workshop, is not to teach you anything, is not to tell you that you better use this tool or you better not to use this tool. What I'm trying to do today is to raise awareness of the availability and accessibility of different social science research tools that we have to use as researchers now or as future researchers in the future, or maybe we're thinking just about the idea of research. So it's really very important that to raise awareness of each other, and at the same time we need to encourage each other to share any tool, any kind of technology that we've heard about, we've known, either while working in other institution, while doing a workshop, listening to kind of a colleague talking about it, or reading a research paper about it. Share the knowledge and train each other, because the world is really changing. And at the same time, I think one of the most important part of it, whether we like research, we don't like research, and that's why I didn't think lots of people will attend this workshop, because it's about research, and it seems like we are not really very interested in research, including myself. However, we need to prepare ourselves for the new era of universities that has teaching contract, research and teaching contract, and research contract only. And to do that, we need to make sure that we are equipped with tools to conduct these kind of research. What I'm going to use today, I'm not going to use lots of methods, because the method is really very general. And I think when it comes to research method, everyone knows better than me when it comes to research method. What I'm going to focus on mainly is the idea of tool, technology, software, services, or packages. So what I'm presenting is actually one of them. I will be using them interchangeably. So the services or the tool that I'll present examples of definitely will be, it might be cloud, it might be locally installed apps, software application, packages, code, license, open sources, not open sources, might be coding system, might be backed with an interface, or maybe completely new and still developed by academic researchers. So why I'm doing this kind of very boring topic today? And I think because there is now a range of software and tools which are really very specific, which are really very designed to do a very specific tasks that we need, but we don't know anything about for certain kind of reasons. And these research that we didn't know about, these research tools that we didn't know about, and are actually improving, becoming better to solve our tasks, and at the same time they are expanded and they are expanding, sorry, and we don't know about it. So this is the part of tools. Another thing that we feel that I think myself feeling guilty that I don't know really a lot about it, which is the machine learning models that even if I'm teaching a very simple subject like writing or reading, or maybe you're teaching uh, academic principles or economy, we still need to be really familiar with the machines that they are using to do social science research, because you never know, once we face a problem in the future and we need to investigate it, but we don't have the tools. So these kind of machine, which is will not be our focus today, but I still need somebody maybe to teach me how to do it, or we need to really collaborate to do it together. It's like I mean, as simple as the processing of natural language learning, the idea of speech recognition, and the application of graphs and network theory. Why do we need it? Because there are lots of problems. I will not say that could be solved, but could be understood more if we're kind of very comfortable and very familiar with these available machine. Another thing is that we're not really feeling comfortable regarding, I think, borrowing some tools, technologies, technical machines from other discipline, which we need, which is kind of the thing that's happening in other discipline, other universities around the world, but we're not really very comfortable you doing that for lots of reasons that I'm going to talk about. Okay, why is not moving to the second slide? Okay. So really, the availability and accessibility, if we know that there are some available tools, some available technology that we can access as teachers, as researchers, this is something really very promising. It's not only very promising, it's very important for the future of research. I probably, in a very open workshop, I will ask the question why it's really very important. It's the same reason. Universities are changing. So if we are only teaching and nobody is asking us to do research nowadays, in 5 years from now, everyone will be kind of responsible, from his line manager, from his university, from his department, to publish certain kind of papers. So we need to equip ourselves with different kind of tools, with the kind of expansion, with the availability and accessibility. And not only that, we need to train ourselves at being trained to know how to use them. So this is something is really very important. Now the question is that if we are teaching, I'm a teacher myself. So if we are teaching, can we keep up with the changing landscape of research tools and software? Is the problem that the technology is changing every day? Can we? Well, the question, maybe the answer for that is that no, we can't, because it's very challenging. This is an example from a research, a survey conducted in 2016. Might sounds like an old paper. Anyway, this kind of research surveys 10,000 researchers in social sciences. And I think that you are aware, we're talking about social science. We're talking about um, language teaching, we're talking about economy, we're talking about arts, we're talking about all of these kinds of disciplines, psychology as well. We're talking about social science, we're talking about social working and these kinds of things, which is very related to our tasks as a teacher because we deal with students. Anyway, this kind of survey reported that teachers or researchers actually can't keep with the pace of a change that's happening in the methods and tool and research for lots of reasons. And probably as a researcher myself and as a teacher myself, I think I can understand. First of all, even if I update myself, who will update the students who probably will be my participants in the study? And another question is that we're not really very comfortable, and at the same time, we don't have resources to update our statistical knowledge. And I think this is something really very valid. Another thing, not really very sure if we have enough access to data in terms of teaching, textbooks, journals. So if we want to update ourselves, don't we have don't isn't it necessary that we have access to certain kinds of platforms, certain kinds of training centers to be updated? So this is really very hard. It's not only our concerns, it's the concerns of all the teachers, I would say, and all the researchers around the world. Another kind of the same study showed that the problem with the research tools, there is a rapid evolution. So we're talking about 500 tools this year, another 200 tools will be added next year, and we only know 3 or 4 tools as as researchers because of lots of reasons, because we don't have time, as mentioned here in the graph. If you can see, it's a big problem that we don't really have time to learn these all of new tools. Especially some of us are asked to do research and they are interested to do research, but at the same time we are not trained, we are not encouraged, we are not funded to do research. Another thing is that it's not only the tools that we're talking about, it's not talking about, for example, collecting data tools. We're talking about collecting, and at the same time, we're talking about data analysis. So maybe 500 tools here and another 500 tools here. And the most important reason why we can't keep with this kind of rapid evolution of research tools is that why we're doing it. Why we're doing it. Are we doing it only for ourselves as researchers, for kind of certain kind of publication, or we're doing it for the university, for the kind of the collective effort of publication and all um, that represent the country, for example. So this is kind of really very serious issue. Now, regardless the rapid evolution, so probably we need at least to move faster, to train ourselves faster, to make sure that we cope up, if not with 100% of the tools, at least with 10% of them, because it really affects lots of things. So there is an international mission to support social science, to support teachers who are teaching subjects related to social science to become good and updated researchers. How? So we need to equip social scientists, and this kind of international mission really kind of adapted and are practiced by certain kind of association, universities, organization around the world. We need to be part of this here in Oman because it's really very important that we start training ourselves to know how to deal with big data. Everyone now talks about big data. And we find ourselves not really very familiar with the concept of big data. Big data is not only in economy, and it's not only something related to finance. Big data can be relevant to English language teaching, can be relevant to psychology, can be relevant to fashion design. So these kinds of things are really, really very important. We need to be updated to be able to be confident to handle this big data instead of bringing experts and contracting this research to some researchers outside. We need to train ourselves to do it because this is what our universities looking for, and this is probably what our journals are looking for. And even if we're thinking about granting getting a grant, a research grant, or submitting a research proposal, why would a university, an organization, even the research council give you the research grant if you're really trying to solve not really a serious problem? So we need to be very innovative. We need to be really very creative. And at the same time, in terms of the problems and the research question that we are investigating. So when it comes to research data, we need to understand something. First of all, how can we as a researcher discover these kind of tools if there is no support from our organization, from our universities? How can we be trained? And is it kind of institutional effort, or is it kind of personal effort only? And then, okay, I know that there are, for example, 400 tools. As researchers, how can I decide which tool to adopt for my research? Am I going to use, for example, Envivo for the analysis, or I'm going to use WordCrick for that? These are kind of questions are really very important. That's why sometimes that's why we need to share the knowledge, because we don't know the answers for all of these questions. Another thing is that how research developers are recognized for the effort. So if I decide that I think there is a missing tool and I want to kind of develop or suggest an idea, how are we going to develop um, a specific research tools within academia? To whom should I go? What are the channels for that? It's so complex, and I do understand why people feel very reluctant to even discuss this field, because it's really very complex. However, it's not going to be really very easy if it is not really very complex. It just remain very complex. So we need to sit together, discuss its complexity, and try to find kinds of ways to solve, I will not say all of our problems as researchers and practitioners in the field, but at least 10% of our problems. Okay, just it's a little bit slow here. Okay. Um, Again, why is it really very important? Why I'm doing this? Although I knew from the beginning that not lots of people will show up, because I mean, it's a really very boring topic to talk about teaching research methods or new research tools. Who are interested? Because there is knowledge out there, okay, and there is another future, another kind of a change in terms of policies and research policies that definitely will force us to change in a very short time. Okay, so we need to be updated now. We need to think about these possibilities and the availability of all these tools now. Better than we are forced to do it while we have millions things to do. I mean, let's talk about teaching. If we're teaching, maybe I mean, I would not say maybe, lots of teachers can't do research if they are teaching. It's kind of really very time consuming. Another thing is that, okay, you never know, out of 100 researchers we have here, or maybe 200 researchers we have here, or 300 researchers we have here, if we start sharing these kind different tools, we might develop a research tool developers ourselves. So tool developers, like research tools, they don't have to be IT people. They don't have people who are really very good at programming. They might be simple teachers who wanted to investigate something, but they found that there is no tool to analyze or to collect the data that he is looking for. So I still insist that this topic is really, might sound really very boring. However, it's something that we need if we want to enrich our knowledge and enrich our skills, which is something very needed in the future. Okay, so I talked about the introduction, and I think that was kind of to clarify my point of view. Why do we need to do this? Now, I'll be talking about some of the research tools. that I came across. Do I know to use all of them? No. Do I know, am I comfortable kind of, do I know all of them? No, I don't know all of them. I know some of them. And once like I feel that I know some of them, I think this is kind of part of our, I would say, research responsibility to start sharing. Because if you know these kinds of tools, it will make your life easier as a researcher. So instead of spending kind of 200 hours analyzing a text, maybe you will spend 100 hours doing the same task. So what I'm suggesting here, again, this is kind of, while we're speaking now, there are new tools which are developing. There are new tools which are disappearing because nobody knows about them, because nobody uses them. So what I suggest, if we have new tools but we think that they are beneficial, we're going to have a new research methods, we're going to have a new technology, and hopefully we can propose new studies, which is really very important. Okay, so the new research tools people are talking about, I'm talking about mainly the tools which are computer based, which will make, and these are only examples. I mean, there are now 418 tools that are used or have been used in research papers in social science. Okay. Now, when I saw this kind of number, I felt that, well, maybe I know only five. What are these 418 tools that I don't know about? And maybe I needed them to make even my assignments easier. Anyway, I found these kinds of statistics as well really very important. 50% of these tools are United States based. So are they were found in papers published in the United States. And probably this is not really very surprising um, compared to the number of researchers we have there. Another thing which is really very interesting, 50% of the 418 tools are free to use for researchers, especially if you are registered as researchers with one of the university, you can get them freely, which is something that I found really very surprising. Another thing, it's only 5% of these developed by private big tech. Private big tech, we're talking about Google, we're talking about, for example, Sage publication, these kinds of big tech. And 45% were individual projects, which is really very interesting. So almost 55% of these tools were developed by researchers like us. Okay. Again, another thing, they are not only used for commercial tools. More innovative tools are coming from academia. So from people, from institutions, from kind of context like ours. So that's why this is another reason that probably some people will say, well, some of these tools are only practical in the business field, but I can't use them. And for example, in my field, as for example, language teaching field or curriculum field or methods of teaching or even counseling fields. But it seems like you can, because 50% of these tools were used in such papers. Okay, so social science focus, if we want to focus on social science and the tools to focus on, it's really, really very important, because usually as social scientists, I would not say social scientists, or the future researchers or even current researchers, it's really very important that we update ourselves when it comes to social media analysis, whether we like it, whether we don't like it, it is something very major. So this is something we need to update ourselves, how to deal with social media and with different platforms, from where we should kind of approach this, how to collect them, how to monitor them. This is something very important, and probably usually most of the time we don't think about any kind of research question related to social media because we don't feel confident dealing with any research tools related to social media. Another thing that we need to make sure that we update ourselves, because what we're doing now is something that, I mean, I'm talking about myself. Maybe some of you are really very updated. Labeling and coding when it comes to documents, when it comes to even students' reflection, it takes ages. And then we discover there are kind of some automated coding tools that can do at least 30 to 50% of the tasks that we are doing manually. Another thing, the surveying tools, we don't have only um we don't have only survey monkey, we don't have only Google forms, we don't have only Microsoft forms. Seems like our thinking only um, um, focus, and immediately we focus on these kinds of tools. However, you discover that there are actually specific surveying tools for academics. Why don't we know about them? This is something really very interesting. Another thing is, how can we recruit participants if you want participants? Again, another thing is that we don't think about because we don't feel confident, or we don't feel kind of, we are not familiar with these tools. If I want to do kind of um, cross studies, like they call it comparative research between two countries or between two institutions, um, what kind of platforms should I use? Are there any kind of international survey system that can reach lots of researchers around the world? I can access them. It seems maybe yes, but we didn't know about it. That's why once I feel that, I'll say it again, once there is a research tool that somebody knew about it, even in a simple research paper, okay, I think it's worth sharing this research tools, because most probably 70% of us trying to start this kind of a new task of doing research or publishing kind of papers, we don't know anything about it. Another tool is the text mining tools. Again, these kind of tools, I still insist that they will kind of reduce the time we spend in front of our computers trying to collect, analyze data. Okay, so again, just kind of really very general. So we have to say that software, computer-based tools are very critical for social science research. The world is developing, whether we like it or we don't like it, we need to train ourselves. Another thing is that if you can't pay for these tools, there are some free tools. I mean, sometimes they are not limited. They are not unlimited free, for they are only limited for certain time. However, we still can use them. Um, Another thing which is really very interesting, until now, half of the research tools are based in the United States, and then UK, Germany, and Canada. And probably this will give us kind of why. If you look at the map here, it's really very interesting why certain countries are really very kind of famous in terms of research. Yes, the number of researchers, most probably. But another thing is the kind of policies that they have in universities that force normal teachers to be researchers, which is, I think, something that we will be forced to do in the coming years. So if we look at a map, at a similar map, whether we like it or we don't like it, it just caught our attention that our region does not seem to be very updated when it comes to using new software, new kind of technology when it comes to research, which is something that I think uh, raise a question mark. Why? I mean, there are, again, different kind of reason we can discuss, we can share, we can argue about. However, part of our responsibility is to start raising the numbers of tools that we're using, be more creative in terms of number of tools, and again, I think train ourselves to be familiar with more numbers of tools. Okay, so let's explore some of the tools. I will only give you kind of out of 410, be talking maybe about only 20. Again, this kind of the session is not to tell you that I know this specific research tool or I know this specific how to use this specific research tools, just to tell you that there are lots of tools, research tools that can make our life as teachers and researchers easier, and at the same time, they are updating. So we need to make sure that we're doing something for our future. Okay, so tools, kind of a very simple example people can relate to, is tools for surveying and sourcing participants, like recruiting participants. It's very common if you want to do a research, you need participants, you need to send surveys. And there are, interestingly, more than 50 different software tools for surveying. Okay, the one which are developed for academics, interestingly, none of them I have used them before, which is really very interesting. And lots of people will ask, well, why do they all do this kind of similar task? They do, and at the same time, they don't, because especially when we're talking about why I was cut. Anyway. Okay, so especially when we're talking about, for example, one of the things that university now are really very keen about the concept of ethics and about the security of data. So some of these general forums or websites, they are not really very secure. So if you want to use them, and just remember, this might not be here yet, but it will be here in the future. That's why we need to prepare ourselves. So in terms of the security of the information, that's why some universities, they don't allow their researchers to use, for example, SurveyMonkey or to use Google Forms because they are not secured. So you have to use one of the very specific surveys for academics only. It's very interesting that SurveyMonkey, for example, went for public, but we have certain surveys that certain specialization in social science can use. Okay, this is, for example, just kind of a screenshot from RedCap. Um, again, some of you might be familiar with it. It was just my kind of very first time I saw, I knew that there is kind of a very specific software surveying for academics. And so it's specifically developed for academics. Interestingly, developed initially for clinical research, and it was transferred. And this is the whole idea of research. So as teachers, either math teacher, English teachers, science teachers, business teachers, it does not really sometimes matter. We need to explore maybe some of the tools that are used in engineering. Maybe we can adopt some of these tools, because this is how it starts. Once we know how to do that, it will be really very easy for us to submit something. I mean, and when I say to submit something, to submit a proposals which can be accepted and can solve a serious problem, because usually a research solves a problem. Okay, another kind of software that you might be interested in, a participant recruitment software. There is a very interesting one, which is Amazon Mechanical Turk. It's very, again, popular in the US. And we have Prolific. Again, Prolific is something called for academics. It's very professional. Once you open the website, it's really very professional. It's very easy to use. Some of them, they have free subscription for academics. And interestingly, that's why I put the notes. This software, especially, was kind of set up in 2014 by a PhD student, because the PhD students thought at that time we didn't have any professional uh, platform to recruit international participants. And she suggested this a platform. It's really very interesting. I just put kind of the website for you and the names of the most popular tools which are used currently by some of the researchers. So to give you a chance to explore them, and maybe some of you will have an idea to submit a proposal. It's not sometimes it's not only for research. Sometimes even to understand something, we want to send something to our students, and we want a very easy tool to analyze that. For example, their opinion, their reflection. We don't have 50 hours to do things manually. And if the tool is available there, I mean, a research, and the concept of research does not have to be a published paper, does not have to be a kind of a very formal way to do a research. It might be kind of this interaction between you and your students, and you want to analyze it. And something that we need to understand, that the ratio, students and teacher ratio, will definitely increase in the future. So we need to, again, to update ourselves to make sure that we can research our students, we can understand them more, we can analyze their tasks, their submission. We need to be familiar with these kind of tools to make sure that we will help them, we will be able to interact smartly and successfully with them. Okay, when it comes to coding and labeling, there are, again, we're talking about the tools that I'm talking about here actually have been used in research papers. So we're talking about 48 tools, 20 of them have been updated, have not been updated for at least a year, and probably, I guess the answer for that, because as researchers ourselves, we didn't show interest in them. And interestingly, 69% of them are free to use, and 31% of them, the price ranges from 60 to 10,000 for 1 year project. And again, this is another thing. Why do we need to explore them? If we don't know them, we can't suggest for our institutions or for our research center to buy certain or to subscribe to a certain tool for us, because we don't know them. So that's why this is another reason that we need to explore these kinds of software. Okay, again, when it comes to coding and labeling, they usually, this is kind of an image that people explain. So most of the people are here. I'm not really very sure if you see the my mouse moving. Most of us are here. And the kind of, we always talk about small scale and basic labeling. However, there are the kind of, even the softwares and the apps and the tools for large scale for analyzing big data are even more than the software to analyze the small data. So again, it's our responsibility, and maybe our planning for the future, to be updated with these kind of uh, to be updated when it comes to these kind of research tools. It's very, again, this is part of toward the end of my presentation, but I found these tools are really very, very interesting for lots of people. These tools kind of, they do an automated text analysis for you. They call it some kind of the pre-cleaning of the data. So they create something, they give you kind of the pre-codes if you want to code something. They polish the data for you. Again, we're talking about you have reflection, you have, for example, a very large document. We're talking about big data. So these three, again, definitely there are lots of tools are developing now. They can do this for you. And I put the place where are they used or they have been developed intentionally just to make sure that people are working, researchers are working, teachers are working to make sure that their academic kind of tasks will be easier in the future. Okay, the last point that I'm going to discuss, then I'm going to end this really very short session, is that tools for social media. So when it comes to tools for social medias, there are three types of tools. And there we have some tools, some software, some packages that they can do the three for you. So we have tools, software, or they can collect data for you from social media websites or application. And we have some tools that they can monitor the social media activities for you if you're looking only for monitoring kind of activities. And we have some tools, and these are kind of available tools for researchers that can do the analysis for you. And if you can see, sorry, if you can see that in the circle here in the middle, these tools can do the three for you, the three things for you: the collection of data, the analysis, and the monitoring. And research, social media now are really very interesting and I think much needed. If we think about our students spending lots of time on social media, because yeah, I mean, social media definitely give us lots of things about our preferences, our opinion, our behavior. So if we can understand this, we can understand lots of things in our kind of daily practice. Another thing is that these social media tools now, we're talking about 104 tools that researchers have already used in research papers and published. 70 of them, which is really very interesting, I just found this kind of statement really very interesting, is that interface with Twitter, because most of the projects now, although it's not the most used social media app, however, 70% of these kinds of tools interface with Twitters, not with Snapchat, not with Instagram. So just kind of they give us some an idea of the programs that we would like to think about. This is the slide where there are some kind of really very famous again tools for social media research. Most of them actually are to collect the data. Again, I just put them just to make sure. If you Google tools for social media research, you will find them immediately and you can explore, play with them, I would say. And maybe while you're looking at them, there is a research idea that it will come up, and then you will start thinking about specific concerns, specific question that you would like to answer. Um, One of the common thing, one or two, again, a tool that is exclusively for academics is this tool, which is DocNow 24. It provides a collection of tools that respond to the role of social media in reporting historically significant events. What is the meaning of that? So, for example, if you want to study a project that has been implemented for a while, because most of institutions now, even university, they kind of publish their news, their results on Twitter. So you can use this app. Another thing, if you go to the website, you will find under the website, okay, you will find other tools that you can try as well. Some of them are some of them are applications, some of them are websites, some of them um, just kind of a tool you can install. Okay, again, you can just go and Google it, and then you will find lots of interesting things. The last thing that I'd like to talk about, I know this might sound really a very boring topic for lots of people. Again, what I said from the beginning, why do we need to do this? Because this is the future of universities. We need to be updated. If you don't update, you will be kind of, if you don't update yourself when it comes to teaching, and to update yourself when it comes to teaching, you need to read research and you need to do research. But this is kind of another thing. This is the kind of philosophical, and the direct thing that the new universities will ask people to do research. To do research and to get research grants, you need to be updated. This is kind of the final answer. But we do understand that there are some challenges facing tool creators and tool users like ourselves. The problem is that it charges to research, especially if you're doing it yourself. Only 2% of the tools that I mentioned are exclusively free, are free, kind of unlimited free. 50%, yes, I mentioned at the beginning they are free, but kind of for 3 months or for only one program, but only 2% are free to use uh, for unlimited time. Another thing is that it's really unclear about any clear status of these tools, why they are not really very available. They are not very clear. They are not promoted, encouraged in academic system. And when I say academic systems in our universities, well, we are not invited to to be trained on these tools or to use these kind of tools, to participate in certain these tools. Another thing is like, and I think all of us here agree on this, is like, it's very difficult. You need time to learn them, time consuming, and at the same time, it's kind of what is the value? Why do I need to do this? For whom? For myself? For the institutions? For the country? Again, they are kind of valid concerns. Many of these tools will not be documented or made discoverable. And this is the problem. Now, the 410 tools were used in the research papers. However, they were not really very cited really very well because of the technicality. Researchers didn't feel comfortable sharing these kind of tools. That's why when you, for example, Google research tools, you will not find 50% of these names. They are not even made publicly available. So you will need to be very kind of specific. You knew what you're looking for to make sure that one of these tools will appear when you Google certain things. The last thing is lack of peer review for tools, and this is the same thing. Similar to the thing that I mentioned before, why we are not involved when such a new tool is created, is developed, is practiced, is piloted. This is kind of a serious question. Again, I will end up with this kind of map. It's really very interesting. We understand the gap between all the countries. We understand kind of the gap in resources and policies and lots of things. However, this is something that we need to put we need really to care about and to highlight whenever we're thinking about any research, traditional, I would say, tools that we are planning to use to conduct our future research. My last message is, let's keep exploring and understanding more about this field, because this is the future of higher education. This is the future of our universities. And at the same time, it's kind of the future of academia, and it is relevant to every field, whether that you're teaching, again, maths, you're teaching science, you're teaching, you're an engineer, or you are a business teacher. It is relevant to everything. Thank you very much for attending. And yeah, I will not say that if you have any question, please ask me, because most probably I will not know how to answer this question. But my message to everyone that, I mean, there are some people in this university who care about these new tools. So please, please, if one of you, like, there is a new experiment, there is a new tool, there is a new thing in research related to your field, share it with your colleagues, share it with the academics, share it with the staff. So we create this culture that and we train ourselves for the future of university. Thank you very much. I wish you a lovely day, and I hope that this was not really a very boring lecture. Thank you.